Jack Cooper's fingers drummed against his desk at the United Earth Space Agency, his eyes fixed on the towering stack of xenorchaeological reports demanding his attention. The familiar hum of the climate control system and distant chatter from the hallway did little to motivate him through another mind-numbing day of bureaucratic tedium. A soft chime from his comm unit broke his concentration. The message bore the ornate digital seal of the Centaurian High Council, something he hadn't seen since his last correspondence with Kithrix 3 months ago. His old friend had been unusually quiet lately, which wasn't like him at all. The seal shimmed and expanded, projecting a full-size hologram that filled his small office with ethereal blue light. Jack's breath caught in his throat. Instead of Kithrix's familiar angular features, a stern-faced Centaurian official stood before him, her crystalline head crest catching the light. "Jack Cooper of Earth," she intoned, her translator giving her voice a metallic edge. "I regret to inform you that Kithrix of House Zaron has passed into the Great Void. His death was ruled as an accident during a routine maintenance inspection of his private yacht." Jack slumped back in his chair, his mind reeling. Kithrix had been his mentor, friend, and bridge to understanding Centaurian culture for the past 8 years. They'd first met when Jack was just a junior researcher, and Kithrix had seen potential in him that no one else had. The hologram continued, unaffected by his shock. "As per Centaurian law and Kithrix's final wishes, you have been named sole heir to the House of Zaron, including all associated holdings, trading rights, and familial obligations." "What?" Jack straightened, certain he'd misheard. "That's impossible. Centaurian houses don't pass to outsiders." "Ordinarily, no." The official's head crest flickered with what might have been annoyance. "However, Kithrix filed special dispensation with the High Council 6 months ago. All legal requirements have been met." Jack's mind raced. The House of Zaron was one of the largest trading houses in 3 star systems. Their operations extended from luxury goods to essential medical supplies. He knew the basics from his conversations with Kithrix, but actually running such an empire. "There is one additional matter." The official's tone grew even more formal. "As head of House Zaron, you also inherit guardianship of Kithrix's wife, Niara, as per traditional law." The floor seemed to drop out from under Jack. He'd never met Kithrix's wife. The marriage had been arranged only a year ago, and he knew it had been primarily a business alliance between houses. But guardianship, that sounded uncomfortably close to ownership. "You have 30 Earth Standard days to appear before the High Council and claim your inheritance," the official continued. "Failure to do so will result in all holdings being transferred to House Drelix, as specified in contingency protocols." Jack's blood ran cold. House Drelix was Kithrix's longtime rival, known for ruthless business tactics and rumors of darker dealings. Kithrix had mentioned them often enough with barely concealed contempt. "Wait," Jack called out as the hologram began to fade. "I have questions. A transport has been arranged for you. It will arrive at the UESA spaceport in 3 hours. Pack efficiently, Jack Cooper. Centauri Prime awaits." The hologram vanished, leaving Jack alone in his suddenly too small office. His eyes fell on the small crystalline sculpture Kithrix had given him years ago, a traditional Centaurian symbol of trust between houses. Had his friend known something like this might happen? Was that why he'd been so quiet lately? Jack pulled up his terminal and began typing his resignation letter. Whatever game Kithrix had been playing, whatever had really happened to him, the answers were waiting on Centauri Prime, and he had 30 days to figure it all out before he lost everything he'd just inherited to people who might have killed his friend to get it. The spaceport of Centauri Prime pierced the atmosphere like crystal daggers catching starlight. Jack's transport ship descended through layers of shimmering force fields, each rippling with different colors that reflected off the city's metallic spires. The twin suns painted everything in shades of gold and crimson, making the entire metropolis look like it was forged from living flame. First time on Centauri Prime. The pilot's translated voice held a note of amusement. Most humans get vertigo from the orbital approach. Something about our architectural angles being mathematically perfect instead of naturally flawed. Jack managed a weak smile, grateful that his stomach had long since adjusted to alien aesthetics. Not my first time. Just my first time coming as. He trailed off, still unable to wrap his mind around his new status. As a House Lord. The pilot's head crest flickered with what Jack recognized as respectful deference. The news feeds haven't talked about anything else since the announcement. The first human to inherit a great house. House Drelex's representatives are already claiming it's an insult to tradition. The ship touched down on a private landing pad high above the city. A delegation waited below, their crystalline head crests catching the light in various patterns that denoted their social ranks. Jack straightened his Earth formal wear, knowing it probably looked hopelessly primitive to them. The reception committee parted as he approached, revealing a figure that made him stop mid-stride. Nyara stood at their center, and Jack finally understood why Kithrix had once said Centaurian beauty could break a human's mind. Her skin held an iridescent quality that shifted with each movement, like oil on water but infinitely more elegant. Silver eyes met his, set in a face that somehow married alien geometry with breathtaking grace. Her head crest was more delicate than the male's, almost crown-like, with patterns Jack had never seen before. "Welcome to House Varan," she said, her translator rendering her voice in perfect English. "I trust your journey was comfortable." The formal words carried an undercurrent of something. Tension, fear, warning. Before Jack could respond, movement caught his eye. A shadow where there shouldn't be one. Training from his inorcheological field work kicked in. He lunged forward, grabbing Nyara's arm and pulling her aside just as a plasma bolt seared through the space where she'd been standing. Security drones materialized instantly, their force fields expanding to cover the landing pad. The assembled dignitaries scattered, their formal composure forgotten in the chaos. Jack kept his body between Nyara and the direction of the shot, scanning for more threats. "Well," Nyara said, her voice steady despite the attack. "It seems House Drelex wishes to expedite their claim to the inheritance." She was still pressed against him, and Jack became acutely aware of how warm her skin was, almost feverish by human standards. "Inside," Jack ordered, surprising himself with his own authoritative tone. "We need to get to a secure location and figure out what's really going on here." Nyara's silver eyes studied him with new interest. Indeed, perhaps Kithrix's choice wasn't as bizarre as the council believed. She gestured toward a doorway that had appeared in what looked like solid wall. "Welcome home, Lord Cooper. Try not to die before the inheritance ceremony. The paperwork would be absolutely dreadful." As they hurried inside, Jack caught glimpses of the city through force field windows. Centauri Prime spread out below them like a mathematical dream made real, beautiful, and deadly. Somewhere in those perfect angles and crystalline towers, someone wanted him dead. And the stunning alien woman now technically under his protection might know exactly why. He just had to live long enough to figure it all out. The private study of House Varan floated impossibly in midair, suspended between three of the estate's crystal spires. Jack sat at Kithrix's old desk, surrounded by holographic displays showing trading routes, profit margins, and countless alien currencies he barely understood. 3 days of cramming Centaurian business protocols had left his head spinning. "You're holding your head wrong," Nyara said from the doorway. "Centaurian nobles never show physical discomfort. It's considered a sign of weakness." Jack straightened, trying to mask his exhaustion. "Is that why you've been standing perfectly still for the last hour while watching me fumble through these reports?" A flicker of amusement crossed her iridescent features. "Perhaps I simply enjoy watching humans struggle with simple arithmetic." "Simple." Jack gestured at a particularly complex trade agreement. "This contract has 17 different conditional clauses based on the relative positions of 3 different solar systems' planets. As I said, simple." Nyara glided into the room, her movements making the air shimmer around her. though you're adapting faster than the High Council expected. They were certain you'd have bankrupted us by now." Jack started to respond, but froze as something in one of the reports caught his eye. "These shipping manifests, they don't match." Niera's head crest flickered with sudden interest. "Oh." Cathrix was meticulous with his record-keeping, but these shipments to the Outer Rim— Jack pulled up multiple displays, arranging them in Earth standard format rather than Centaurian geometric patterns. "The mass calculations are off. Like he was shipping empty containers, but paying premium rates for full cargo insurance." "Interesting that you noticed." Niera's voice had lost its teasing edge. "Most Centaurians wouldn't think to check mass against insurance rates. We trust the numbers to be correct. Humans learn early not to trust anything," Jack muttered, diving deeper into the records. Thrix was hiding something in plain sight, using legitimate shipping lanes too. A soft chime interrupted him. "Evening meal protocols," Niera explained. "The household staff will expect us to dine together, as tradition demands." Jack rubbed his temples, forgetting about proper posture. Another 3 hours of formal dining rules and political small talk. "Unless you prefer to insult 3 prominent trading houses and give House Drelix more ammunition for their humans, our barbarians' propaganda campaign." She paused. "Though we could dine privately in the secondary hall, it would cause minor scandal. But it would give us time to discuss these shipping manifests without an audience." Jack finished. He was learning to read between the lines of Centaurian formal speech. Niera's skin rippled with what might have been approval. "I'll inform the staff of our impropriety." Later, over a meal that looked like abstract art but smelled surprisingly like Earth seafood, Jack pulled up a encrypted display. Cathrix left messages in his personal logs. They're fragmented, but— A soft click from the wall made him dive across the table, pulling Niera down as a needle-thin beam of energy sliced through the space where she'd been sitting. The beam curved, tracking them. "Maintenance shaft," Niera shouted, directing him toward a nearly invisible seam in the crystal wall. They tumbled through just as the beam carved a molten line across the floor. "Someone hacked our security systems," Jack panted as they ran through the narrow passage. "Again." "Yes," Niera agreed, her formal manner finally cracking. "And they're getting better at it. We need to—" She stumbled, and Jack caught her. Her skin burned against his. "You're injured." "The beam grazed me." "It's nothing." "It's not nothing." Jack supported her weight, noting how she let him despite Centaurian customs about physical contact. "And I think it's time you told me what Cathrix was really investigating. What was worth killing him for?" Niera's silver eyes met his. "If I tell you, there's no going back. You'll be as much a target as I am." "I'm already a target," Jack replied. "At least this way, I'll know why." In the distance, security alarms began to wail. "Bioweapons." Jack's voice echoed in the secure bunker beneath House Zaron's eastern spire. After the assassination attempt, they'd retreated to one of Cathrix's hidden safe rooms, surrounded by enough security measures to protect a small planet. Niera's wound had been treated, but her skin still shimmered with fever-like intensity. Not just any bioweapons, targeted ones, designed to affect specific species while leaving others untouched. Holographic data swirled around them, the fruits of Cathrix's secret investigation. Jack had spent hours reorganizing it in human-readable formats, finding patterns that Centaurian linear thinking had missed. "These shipping routes," he pointed to a complex web of intersecting lines. "They're not random. They form a perfect distribution network, one that could deploy a biological agent across 3 sectors within days. Cathrix discovered it 6 months ago." Niera's head crest dimmed with what Jack now recognized as grief. "He arranged our marriage to protect me. House Drelix couldn't touch the wife of a great house lord without causing scandal. Then he began gathering evidence, and named me his heir because humans are immune to Centaurian political pressure." Jack finished, pieces clicking into place. We're too primitive to be blackmailed with social standing. A distant explosion rocked the bunker. Security feeds showed smoke rising from the trading district. That would be our primary shipping yard, Niera said grimly. House Drillex moves faster than expected. Jack was already pulling up manifest data. No, this wasn't about destroying our ships. Look, he highlighted a pattern of numbers that pulsed like a heartbeat. They're covering their tracks. These shipments were supposed to go out tomorrow. Shipments that would have proved they were moving restricted biological materials. Impossible. I reviewed those manifests myself. They were clean. Clean to a Centaurian. Jack's fingers flew over the controls, displaying the data in a three-dimensional Earth calendar format. But if you look at the scheduling patterns like a human, see how they never ship on Earth religious holidays, even ones not widely celebrated anymore. They were using our calendar to hide their timing. Niera moved closer, her natural warmth making Jack's skin tingle. That's elegant. No Centaurian would think to cross-reference Earth cultural data. They didn't count on Kithrix naming a human as Hare. Jack turned to face her, suddenly very aware of how close they were standing. Or on that human having xenorchaeological pattern recognition training. Jack. Her use of his first name, rare among formal Centaurians, made him focus. If we expose this, it won't just be House Drillex coming for us. Half the High Council is probably involved. We'd be declaring war on Centauri Prime's political elite. Another explosion, closer this time. The bunker's shields hummed as they absorbed the impact. They're already at war with us, Jack said quietly. The only difference is now we know why. He hesitated, then asked the question that had been burning since he arrived. Did Kithrix really die in an accident? Niera's silver eyes clouded. He knew they were coming for him. That last night, he said something I didn't understand until now. He said, humans don't see straight lines because their hearts don't beat in perfect rhythm. Her hand brushed his arm. I think he knew only a human could unravel this conspiracy. The bunker's communication system chimed. On the main screen, House Drillex's seal appeared, requesting a formal audience. They'll offer to spare our lives in exchange for our silence, Niera said. It's the traditional opening move. Jack squared his shoulders, remembering Kithrix's lessons about Centaurian nobility. Then let's surprise them with a very human counteroffer. A ghost of a smile crossed Niera's alien features. My late husband chose well. You're every bit as much a disruptor as he was. High praise, Jack said, reaching for the comm controls. Let's hope I live up to it. Above them, House Zaron spires shone in the twin sunlight, while beyond them, the perfect geometric lines of Centauri Prime held their deadly secrets. For now, the Grand Hall of Commerce buzzed with whispers as Jack broke every protocol in the book. Instead of sitting in House Zaron's traditional position, isolated and elevated above the lesser houses, he'd moved his chair to floor level, creating an impromptu gathering space that forced the other houses to either join him or look foolish maintaining their distance. Scandalous, one Centaurian noble muttered, head crest flickering with distaste. Completely without precedent. That's rather the point, Niera said smoothly, standing beside Jack's chair in a way that suggested partnership rather than the traditional submissive pose of an inherited spouse. House Zaron believes in adapting to changing times. Jack hid his smile behind a data tablet. In the week since discovering the bioweapon conspiracy, they'd shifted tactics entirely. Instead of playing by Centaurian rules, they'd started breaking them, systematically and publicly. House Velfar, Jack called out, addressing a minor trading house whose support they desperately needed. Join us. I'd love to hear about your new shipping innovations in the Outer Rim. The Velfar representative hesitated, caught between tradition and opportunity. Traditional Centaurian negotiations happen through layers of intermediaries over months or years. Direct conversation was considered crude. But Jack had done his homework. House Velfar was young, ambitious, and chafing under the old house's restrictions. After a moment's hesitation, Their representative descended to join the growing circle around Jack. "Fascinating approach, Lord Cooper," the Velfar noble said, settling into the offered chair. "Though House Trellix suggests your human methods dishonor our traditions." Interesting perspective. Jack pulled up a holographic trading chart. "Speaking of House Trellix, I noticed they've been undercutting your medical supply routes while overcharging for security escorts, almost like they're trying to pressure you into something." The Velfar noble's head crest rippled with surprise. Discussing such matters openly was unheard of. But Jack pressed on, letting his human emotion show plainly on his face. "Look, we both know the old houses are strangling innovation. You've developed faster, safer shipping methods, but they won't let you expand. Work with House Zaron instead. We'll provide fair escort rates and access to our trading lanes." "A generous offer," the noble said carefully, "though some might question your authority to make such arrangements, given your heritage." At that moment, Nyera gracefully intervened. Heritage that gives him unique insight. "Notice how House Trellix's representatives haven't met your eye since you sat down. They're preparing to seize your latest shipment on accusations of protocol violations." The Velfar noble's posture stiffened. A Centaurian Tel Jack had learned to recognize. "That would be unfortunate." "Partner with us," Jack said simply. "Publicly. Let them try to bully two houses at once." More whispers rippled through the hall as House Velfar's representative extended a hand, human style, to seal the deal. Jack grasped it firmly, ignoring the shocked gasps from the traditional houses. "House Trellix will retaliate," Nyera murmured as the noble departed. "Count on it." Jack was already scanning the room, looking for their next potential ally. "But every house we pull into our orbit makes it harder for them to move against us openly. They can't eliminate everyone without exposing themselves." Nyera's skin shimmered with what he now recognized as admiration. "Using our enemies' rigid thinking against them. Cthrix would have loved this." Speaking of rigid thinking, Jack nodded toward the main entrance, where House Trellix's representatives were storming out in obvious frustration. "I think we just ruined their carefully planned assassination schedule for the day. How terribly inconsiderate of us," Nyera said, and Jack caught the hint of humor in her voice. "Though I believe you have now violated approximately 47 different social protocols in the past hour alone." "Only 47. I must be losing my touch." Jack stood, offering her his arm in a gesture that mixed human chivalry with Centaurian respect. "Shall we go scandalize the evening trading session as well?" Her hand settled on his arm, warm and sure. "Lead the way, my unconventional lord." Above them, the great hall's crystal dome caught the light of the setting suns, painting everything in shades of possibility. The abandoned space station hung against the void like a broken crystal, its once pristine surfaces dulled by decades of cosmic radiation. Jack's private shuttle, piloted by one of the few crew members he truly trusted, docked with practiced precision. "The station's life support is minimal," Nyera said, checking readings on her wrist display. "House Trellix's last shipment passed through here 3 standard days ago. Long enough for them to clear out, not long enough to completely hide their tracks." Jack sealed his environment suit, a custom model that accommodated both human and Centaurian physiological needs. "Ready?" She nodded, her silver eyes meeting his through their helmet visors. They traced the bioweapon shipments to this station after weeks of careful investigation, calling in favors from their new allies and following breadcrumbs in corrupted data streams. The airlock cycled open with a hiss of stale air. Emergency lights cast everything in a sickly blue glow as they moved through the station's main corridor, their magnetic boots the only sound in the emptiness. "There," Jack pointed to a seemingly solid wall. "The mass readings don't match the station's original specs. There's a hidden lab behind that panel." They were so focused on the wall that they almost missed the slight shimmer in the air. Almost. Jack's human instincts, less constrained by Centaurian logical patterns, registered the wrongness a split second before plasma bolts filled the corridor. "Down," He tackled Niera as energy weapons fire scared the walls. They rolled behind a support beam, shields flickering as they absorbed glancing hits. Stealth suits, Niera growled, her translator making the sound particularly fierce. House Drelex's elite guards. Jack fired his own weapon around the beam, not aiming to hit, but to force their attackers to move. Can you see them? Centaurian vision spans a different spectrum than yours. I count 3. No, 4. A bolt struck dangerously close to Niera's head. Jack felt something primal and protective surge through him. Something very human and very, very angry. The cooling vents, he said suddenly. Remember what you told me about Centaurian stealth technology. It generates excess heat. Understanding flickered across Niera's features. She raised her wrist computer, fingers dancing across the controls. The station's environmental systems responded, and supercooled gas burst from the ceiling vents. The stealth suit's heat signatures became visible against the cold, outlining their attackers in thermal waves. Jack didn't hesitate. 4 precise shots, 4 bodies hitting the deck. Remind me to thank you for insisting I learned Centaurian weapons, he said as they approached the hidden lab entrance. Remind me to thank you for being unpredictable enough to survive this long. Niera worked on the door controls while Jack kept watch. Though I'm starting to think that's a general human trait rather than something specific to you. The door slid open, revealing a pristine laboratory filled with stasis containers. Jack moved to the central console while Niera secured the entrance. They're going to know we're here soon, she warned. They already do. Jack's fingers flew over the controls, copying data and capturing evidence. But they won't expect us to. An explosion rocked the station. Warning klaxons blared as atmosphere began venting from multiple breaches. They're scuttling the station, Niera realized. With us inside it. Alternative exit strategy? Jack asked, finishing his download. The maintenance tubes. They lead to the emergency pods, but... She was cut off as another explosion shook them. They ran, magnetic boots fighting to keep traction as the station broke apart around them. Jack grabbed Niera's arm as a sudden decompression almost pulled her off her feet. Stay with me, he said, his voice fierce even through the suit's calm. I didn't inherit an alien wife just to lose her in a spectacular explosion. How romantic, she replied, but her hand gripped his just as tightly. Though I believe I'm technically the one who inherited you. They reached the escape pod just as the station's reactor began its death throes, their laughter, human and Centaurian together, echoing through their suit comms as they launched into the safety of space. The High Council chamber of Centauri Prime resembled a frozen hurricane of crystal and light. Jack stood at its center, facing down 50 of the most powerful Centaurians in known space. The evidence from the destroyed station played on floating displays around him, impossible to ignore. These accusations are unprecedented. The council leader's voice echoed through the vast space. House Drelex has served the Centaurian people for 15 generations. And they've been developing illegal bioweapons for at least 3 of those generations, Jack replied, his voice steady. He wore traditional Centaurian formal robes, but with human military posture. The evidence is irrefutable. Evidence gathered through highly irregular means, House Drelex's representative sneered, breaking into private property, violating trading protocols. Using human unpredictability to expose your murders. Niera stepped forward, her presence beside Jack causing another ripple of whispers. An inherited wife speaking in council was yet another broken protocol. Like the murder of my late husband, Kethrix. Jack activated a new hologram. This is the molecular structure of the weapon they were developing. Notice how it targets specific genetic markers. Markers found primarily in emerging spacefaring races that might compete with Centaurian trade dominance. The council chamber erupted in argument. Jack caught fragments of translated debate, some defending tradition, others demanding investigation. But he noticed something else too. The younger council members were watching him with growing interest. I call for an immediate vote of censure, House Drelex demanded. The human has no right. The human, Neera, cut in, her voice carrying the weight of ancient nobility. Is my chosen partner and rightful head of House Sauron? Or does House Drelex wish to publicly challenge traditions of inheritance? Jack suppressed a smile. They'd planned this carefully. House Drelex had built their attack on him being an outsider, but challenging inheritance rights would undermine the very system that gave them power. There is another solution, Jack said into the sudden silence. One that doesn't require anyone to lose face. He gestured, and a new set of trade agreements appeared. House Sauron proposes a joint oversight committee, complete transparency in all shipping manifests, shared access to trade routes, and mutual profit sharing. Impossible. House Drelex's representatives' head crest flared with rage. We would never. Already done. Jack nodded to the back of the chamber, where representatives from 12 trading houses entered. While you were focusing on traditional protocols, we were building alliances, human style, with trust and mutual benefit instead of rigid hierarchies. House Velithar stands with House Sauron, their representative announced, as does House Kralfor and House Mitheri. One by one, houses declared their support. Jack watched House Drelex's representatives' head crest fade to the pale color of defeat as they realized how thoroughly they'd been outmaneuvered. The council recognizes this alliance, the leader finally declared. House Drelex will submit to investigation and oversight. Later, in a private chamber off the council hall, Neera turned to Jack. That was not how Centaurians typically handle such matters. No, Jack agreed, finally allowing himself to relax slightly. Traditionally, there would have been at least 3 assassination attempts during my speech. There were 4, actually. Neera's skin shimmered with amusement. Your security measures caught them all. Another human innovation, checking the air vents. Jack reached out, taking her hand in a gesture that mixed human affection with Centaurian formal respect. We make a good team. Human intuition. Centaurian precision. Indeed, her silver eyes met his, holding something deeper than political alliance. Though I believe there are still several protocols we haven't broken yet. Really? Jack pulled her closer, ignoring the scandalized gasps from passing council members. We should probably fix that. Above them, through the crystal dome of the council chamber, Centauri Prime's twin suns painted the sky in celebration colors. Somewhere in the city, House Drelex was already plotting revenge. But for now, in this moment, human and Centaurian stood together, proving that some traditions were meant to be broken. The private gardens of House Sauron floated among the spires of Centauri Prime, a testament to the impossible made real. Crystal flowers captured starlight and transformed it into gentle music, while anti-gravity pools created cascading waterfalls that flowed upward into the twin sunlit sky. Jack stood at the garden's heart, wearing a formal robe that blended Earth military styling with Centaurian noble cuts. Before him, Neera seemed to glow with an inner light that made the garden's crystalline beauty pale in comparison. A high council is still in upheaval, she said, trailing her fingers through an anti-gravity stream. 3 more houses have requested trading partnerships this morning alone. They're adapting faster than expected, Jack observed, though I suspect having their entire power structure shaken by a bioweapons conspiracy helped speed things along. Humans would call that an understatement. Neera's use of Earth idioms had become more natural over the past months. House Drelex's trial begins next week. Their allies are scrambling to distance themselves. Jack moved closer, enjoying how she no longer stiffened at human proximity, and House Sauron's new trading policies. Revolutionary. Terrible. Brilliant. Her skin shimmed with barely contained excitement. The younger houses are embracing our transparency initiatives. Even some of the ancient houses are beginning to see the benefits of human-style cooperation over traditional competition. Thrix would have loved this. Jack's voice softened. He planned it all, didn't he? Right down to choosing an heir who would completely upend the system. Not all of it. Neera turned to face him fully. He couldn't have predicted this. She gestured to a small data crystal hovering between them. Kethrix's final message, discovered just that morning in a time-locked vault. They'd watched it together. Asterisk, if you're seeing this, then either my plans have succeeded beyond expectation, or everything has gone horribly wrong. Given that I arranged for this vault to open only if certain trading patterns indicated major social changes in Centaurian society, I'm betting on success. Asterisk, Jack, I chose you not just for your human unpredictability, but for your heart. Centaurians have spent generations perfecting logic and protocol, forgetting that true strength comes from connection, from trust, from love. Asterisk, and Niera. I arranged our marriage to protect you, yes, but also because I saw in you the same hunger for change that I saw in Jack. The same willingness to break rules that no longer served their purpose. Asterisk, together, you've done what I could not, shown our people a better way. Human emotion tempered by Centaurian wisdom. Centaurian precision guided by human intuition. Asterisk, the inheritance laws require you to maintain your marriage for one full Centaurian year. That year ends tomorrow. What you choose to do after that is up to you. But know that you have already changed history. The first true partnership between our species, building something greater than either could achieve alone. Asterisk, may the void light your path, my heirs. Asterisk. The message ended there. Jack and Niera stood in comfortable silence, watching the garden's impossible waterfalls defy gravity. The year ends tomorrow, Niera said finally. Traditional law would allow us to dissolve our arrangement. Traditional law can go space itself, Jack replied, earning a startled laugh from her. Unless, do you want to dissolve it? Her silver eyes met his, all pretense of Centaurian formality gone. I believe I've grown quite fond of human unpredictability and human warmth, and one particular human who inherited me through the most unlikely of circumstances. Jack pulled her close, protocol forgotten. Good, because I've grown quite fond of Centaurian precision and Centaurian brilliance, and one particular Centaurian who's been teaching me that some traditions are worth keeping, while others need to evolve. She finished, her form fitting perfectly against his. Above them, Centauri primed spires caught the light of both rising suns, their crystalline surfaces reflecting countless possibilities. House Sauron had become something new, not just a trading empire, but a bridge between species, a proof that love could flourish in the most unexpected circumstances. And in a garden that defied gravity, a human and his alien wife rewrote the rules of the universe, one broken protocol at a time.